The North Hyde substation incident was one of the most significant infrastructure challenges we have faced this year, impacting critical services, air travel, and thousands of homes. Today, I will walk you through what happened, the scale of the impact, and how we responded. On March 20th, an unprecedented transformer fire occurred at North Hyde substation. This led to the widespread power loss, affecting Heathrow Terminal 2 and 4 and over 67,000 homes and businesses. Heathrow Airport was closed for 27 hours, disrupting more than 1,300 flights, impacting over 200,000 passengers. Despite the severity, recovery efforts began immediately. By March 21st, phase restoration was underway and full operations was resumed by early March 22nd. Safety remained our top priority throughout with no casualty reported. An independent review was launched to investigate the root cause. If we look at the timeline of the whole crisis event, March 20th, the fire broke out. March 21, firefighting continued overnight. Engineers restored power by mid morning. March 22nd, Heathrow returned to full operations. March 25th, police confirmed there is no criminal act. By July, the fault was traced to a 7-year-old component failure, and this timeline shows both the speed and the recovery of the complexity of the root cause. Now let's look at how our crisis management framework was activated during this event.
Now to look at what happened using the traffic light system. This was a red level crisis. As Heathrow was shut down, this was a strategic blow to the global travel and the UK economy, with hundreds of millions in immediate loss and the UK's international reputation on the line. The responses were overwhelmed. Passenger systems had collapsed and local resources were saturated. The situation demanded a national level response, including government intervention and military logistics support. The disruption intensified, with a full shutdown lasting over 24 hours and recovery taking weeks. The situation got worse before it got better. Now to look at what failed. Our risk and radar analysis shows that while a Heathrow fire is extremely unlikely, it is classified as a low likelihood and significant impact event. The incident exposed deeper vulnerabilities. The technical cause was predictable and preventable, but the consequences were far more complex. Heathrow's tight interconnected systems meant that its small technical failure cascaded into major disruptions for over 200,000 passengers. Importantly, several warning signs were on the radar: moisture readings, deferred maintenance, and aging fire prevention systems, but were treated as minor issues. Hence, the crisis is a python. What wasn't detected was the scale of Heathrow's dependency on a single substation and how fast disruptions could cause cascade across Europe. In short, the Heathrow fire was a hybrid risk, technical complicated but systematically complex, and could have been prevented if proper checks were done back in 2018. While the Heathrow incident was a severe crisis, the initial emergency response contained several key successes that prevented greater tragedy. First, the detection and escalation protocols worked. A standby was declared, and within 15 minutes of the first alerts, this was correctly upgraded to a major incident. This rapid, decisive declaration triggered the pre-planned multi-agency response at the right scale immediately. Second, the coordinated emergency response was effective and life-saving. Fire appliances, ambulance, and police were deployed to the scene via pre-identified routes. This coordinated action under a unified command led to the successful evacuations of thousands from a smoke-filled terminal, which meant that while there were numerous injuries, they successfully prevented any fire-related casualties. Finally, the methane and seed trip reports immediately classified this not just as a fire, but as a mass casualty event and a critical infrastructure failure. This accurate diagnosis meant that wider resources from the airport authority to the Red Cross were notified and quick to respond. In summary, the system for early detection, decisive declaration, and coordinated life-saving responses functioned as intended, forming a solid foundation upon which to manage the wider crisis. Now to look into the communication.
The communication crisis, why it failed. While the management's decision to close the airport was correct, the communication was a near total failure. Heathrow faced a leadership vacuum. The crisis began late at night. When the media learned that CEO was unreachable, back to bed, the story dominates the news. The public immediately shifted from an external fire to the leadership was asleep during a national crisis. This failure to show immediacy sought engagement allowed criticism, damaging the public trust in Heathrow competence. Second, they lost control of the facts through conflict messaging. Heathrow justifies the 18-hour shutdown due safety and power loss. However, the energy supply arguing that the two other substations were working and London Heathrow had sufficient power. This dispute between the airport and its energy supplier caused confusion. It forces government minister to intervene and led to internal and external inquiries just to figure out who's telling the truth. Credibility was lost because they weren't speaking with one voice. Finally, there was a breakdown in managing passenger impact due to a fragmented passenger outreach. Heathrow failed to establish a single source of truth. Passengers were left to rely on conflict updates from 100 different airlines, social media, and news. This created enormous stress and chaos in the terminal as there was no central channel provide clear guidance on traveler rights or next step. These three failures are what made the incident so damaging.
Thank you, Heba. Let's review our short-term strategy. Failure isn't just a business issue. It impacts safety, service continuity, and public trust. Our focus is on two areas: anticipating impacts and managing external effects. On the left side, anticipation and mitigation. Backups and continuity are critical. Generators kept safety systems running but didn't fully support operations. Also, business impact analysis must be scenario-driven to prepare for real risks like power outages. So, two actions. Action 1, review backup arrangements and define a minimum operating network for 24 hours. Action 2, implement scenario-based impact analysis and decision matrices for critical risks. On the right side, systemic dependencies and vulnerability. Recovery is a process. After power was restored, Heathrow needed a coordinated restart across tech, security, and communications. Also, global dependencies amplify risks. One failure can ripple across industries. Two more actions here. Action 3, establish recovery playbooks with clear ownership and live tests. Action 4, create resilience council with partners and run joint failure exercise. These actions strengthen resilience and ensure continuity even in unexpected situations.
For the long-term strategy, we need to address several steps, such as infrastructure resilience. This accident exposed major gaps in redundancy and emergency readiness. Going forward, we must invest in fully redundant electrical system, completing high-voltage ring circuit and ending independent substation. Predictive maintenance tools like moisture sensor and switchgear should be a standard. As highlighted in the BCI 2025 Resilience Report, we need to shift focus from predictive causes to managing the effect of disruption, building adaptive, fail-safe systems. But resilience is not just technical, it's also organizational. During the crisis, thousands of passengers were left without timeless updates, and communication across team lagged. Even with the command structure in place, decision-making and communication were too slow. To fix this, we must simplify escalation protocol, run regular crisis system simulation, and empower staff to communicate rapidly and transparently. The STOP Crisis Common Safeguard reminds us, trust, no panic, should guide how we communicate. We need to improve a cycle improvement and collaboration. Every crisis should lead to a structured review, informing future policies. Heathrow must work more closely with external partners, like a national grid, through joint simulation and shared risk planning. Key actions include publishing a resilience report, holding joint drills, and prioritizing long-term investment. By reinforcing our system, empowering our people, and strengthening partnership, we can turn the crisis into catalysis for lasting resilience. Thank you.
To summarize and to conclude, on March 20th, Heathrow faced an unprecedented crisis. Technically speaking, the response was fast and effective, but the real crisis was not the fire, it was the communication failure that followed. We identified 3 maps that defined this event. First of all, the leadership vacuum. The CEO was unreachable, as Heba described. Second, the inconsistent messaging. Heathrow and National Grid publicly contradicted each other. And then third of all, the fragmented passenger communication. Instead of one trusted channel, travelers received notifications and conflicting updates, which of course deepened the confusion and even more the frustration. What the crisis is teaching us is that operational resilience means very little without communication resilience, and especially in this case that a communication system really needs a unified command structure. And therefore, going forward, Heathrow needs a very clear minimal viable operations plan, and of course sequence recovery playbooks. And equally important to mention here is embedding the stop and Krebs principles, because communicating early, consistently, and with one automated voice is key. The fire was of course unavoidable, but therefore the communication crisis was not. And as a key insight to share, it's very simple. If modern infrastructures fail, communication is not secondary to the response, it is the response. Thank you very much.